What's going on, Washington fans? Welcome. And the draft is over, but Washington might not be done adding to the roster. So recently, I just put out an article on Commander's Wire going through 5 free agents that Washington could still add to the team that, could make a major impact next season. You never know with a late addition. There are some notable free agents still out there to keep an eye on. Obviously, Washington just added Matt Gay the other day. The kicker released Zane Gonzalez, so they gave Matt a lot of money. So it sounds like he is the guy. They're not even worried about a competition. They said, look, this is going to be the guy for the season. And at least they're making some moves. They didn't draft a kicker. We thought they might after trying out a couple, maybe even the undrafted free agent route. Didn't see any there either, but they addressed it literally soon, right after the draft. So there's 5 other people, not including a kicker, that Washington could really bring in. And I'm looking at a couple. There's one hot take one that some people might not like, but still, I had to put it in there because I think it's worth talking about. So let me go ahead and bring up the article that I wrote, and we'll walk through the 5 options. Now, one of the obvious ones is Von Miller because, well, Washington didn't draft a pass rusher or an edge position player in the draft, and they didn't address it with the undrafted free agents as well. And I think that Von Miller could really be a tremendous addition for a couple reasons. One, he does have his leadership on the field, but then he also does have his pass rushing summit that he does in the offseason, training with other pass rushers in the league, really getting the most out of them, sharpening their tools together, really just training together. And Von Miller's 36 years old. I know he's up there in age, but like I said, don't let that fool you because last season he was still very productive in a very limited role. So with the Bills last year, he actually had the 11th best pass rushing grade on PFF with an 83 grade and his rotational role. And he got to the quarterback 6 times last season on only 209 pass rushing snaps and added 32 pressures and 23 quarterback hits. And every single sack came on 3rd down or 4th down with the Bills. So you're talking about like Washington did beef up, the line a little bit. They added some bodies. Dietrich Wise is going to be a better run stopper. Obviously, they did stuff on the inside too with Javon Kinlaw, but Washington is still lacking that player who can really make up for Dante Fowler's sacks, which obviously, we lost him in free agency. That's fine. He was a liability in the run anyways, but you still got to get to the quarterback. And I honestly feel pretty good about the depth. They have a lot of bodies. They have like 8 edge rushers on the roster right now. I feel good. I feel like they're going to go with this rotational, situation with their pass rushers, kind of like what you see with the Eagles, because they just have so many bodies now. They have the depth. They might not have that high end, top tier guy on the edge, but they certainly have a lot better depth than they have had in the past. And I think that's why adding a guy like Von Miller in on those 3rd down situations, maybe not like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, but something like, 3rd and 5 and beyond, 3rd and long, even 4th down situations where you got to just stop the play. You got to, force them to punt or force a turnover on downs and get to the quarterback. Von Miller can be that guy for you. He still showed that he has some juice. Still, sounds like he's very, wanting to play. And I think that's what's really missing. You don't need a guy who's going to have 600, snaps out there being every down guy. But if you have this rotation going with all the bodies, so like I said, they added Dietrich Wise. They have Dorrance Armstrong. I'm honestly expecting a step up with Javonte Jean-Baptiste, the 7th rounder from last year. I saw some good things out of him last year in his, very limited snaps. I want to see what that step up looks like. They added Martin as well. He can get to the quarterback. But like I said, if you decide to go with this rotation, which I think they will, adding that situational pass rusher can really help out. And Von Miller, even with the age at 36 years old, showed that he could do it. and he's going to just help bring others along the way. So as I mentioned with his pass rushing summit that he does, where, he just, shows everyone like his tricks and stuff like that, and pretty much just trains with all these pass rushers in the league. He can do that in the locker room. He can do that with the guys we have there. It's a pretty young, edge group, to be honest with you, outside of like Dietrich Wise. But even Dorrance Armstrong's on the younger side. Like I said, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, there's some other bodies there. But it's pretty young, to be honest with you. So, yes, he can help you on the field. He can still get to the quarterback. But then also Monday through, Friday or whenever they practice. And even when they're watching film, just pointing out certain things, giving these tips to some of these other guys. He can help elevate everyone else too along the way throughout the season. I'm not saying like be a coach, but just be that on the field example, kind of like what Bobby Wagner has done in the linebacker room. We saw some videos of Bobby Wagner like talking and, to the rest of the linebacker room, even like Dom Hampton and, talking to him during the Tampa Bay game, and just that kind of energy and leadership and leading by example on the field and the defensive line group. And I'm sure he can even help out the interior guys too, because we kind of lacked that pass rushing, skill set from the interior. I mean, heck, we couldn't even stop the run last year. I don't even know what we're doing on the inside with D tackle. So I think Von Miller is one of those guys you bring in for a year, let him fly, see what he can do with Dan Quinn and Coach Witt's defense, and at least just say, hey, man, go get the quarterback, throw some incentives on his contract, and let him do what he does best. So I think edge is one of the positions where players, would probably want to come here because we have the positions open, but then also fans like, hey, man, we did not draft one. We need an edge rusher. So I went with another one next up as well. This is another popular name. And to be honest with you, Zidarius Smith really surprised the heck out of me last season with the Lions and helped them out a bunch, especially with Aiden Huntington going down. And it just opened the door wide open. So I said Zidarius Smith is another veteran pass rusher who had a very productive season last year and could help Washington get to the quarterback next season. Smith joined the Lions on a one-year deal last season, made the most of his opportunity. He hit double sacks last season with 10 and finished 10th in the NFL with 63 pressures. 63. This is a guy who's kind of bounced around a couple teams. He was on the Browns too. I think he's been on like 4 or 5 teams. And he was 6th in the league with 46 hurries as well. So just a super productive. I thought he was much older than 32, to be honest with you, but he's not. Now, the thing about Zidarius Smith where you have some upside is you can play him a lot more than what you could with Von Miller. So I think Von Miller's still really good in his role. When you think about snap count to production ratio, it's really high. Because like I said, he only played like the low 200 snaps and still got, a good bit of production. But with Zidarius Smith, played a lot more snaps. He had 615 total snaps last year. 421 were pass rushing situations, and 178 were, run defense. Then he had some other ones trickled in there as well. But the thing that, like I said, with him is you can kind of rely on him a little more. So say somebody gets hurt, or say you want a little bit more of that 3 down, pass rusher, but also can stop the run. Something like I said, we struggled with mightily last year. He can do that a lot more for you because Von Miller only played 279 snaps last season as a situational pass rusher, but Zidarius Smith just put his hand in the dirt and also, set the edge, contain the run, and also got to the quarterback. So you can go with Von Miller if that's what you're looking for. Hey, we need that situational guy. We just want a 3rd down pass rusher. We feel good about our room, but we still need that one guy, or at least would like to have that one guy. Cool. I don't know how much Von Miller would cost you for a 1-year deal at this point. I feel like it wouldn't be too much. It'd have to be enough for him to come back. Maybe that's a guy that kind of just waits out until the playoffs or close to it and then helps a team out, signs a cheap deal and, tries to get a ring. But, honestly, for me, I feel like Zidarius Smith is one of those guys you could sign for a very favorable deal. You can play him all season. But then as I, kind of ended the paragraph here, at 32 years old, Smith might be a guy that joins Washington makes a major impact this next season, and then could rejoin the team a year after in free agency, kind of just covering your behind. Once again, you don't really know what's going to happen, depth wise. You don't know about free agency. There's a lot of things that could change, but you could at least still have Zidarius Smith in your back pocket if things work out. So looking ahead, and I did an article today that should be coming out tomorrow talking about the 2026 edge class. It looks really good. It's really deep in my opinion, depending on who comes out, because there'll have to be some early declares or, with NIL money, a lot of these pass rushers are going to want to go back to school. So having at least a backup plan, it's where you can have Zidarius Smith. He can make an impact for you this season, but you're also kind of covering your tail for next season too. So you kind of have this, these two options. I don't want to say they're totally different, but situation-wise and production-wise, it kind of is different. Von Miller's your rotation third and long guy. He's, strictly his job to get to the quarterback. Zidarius Smith is like, hey, we can rotate him in a good bit, give him fresh legs. He can be out there in first down, second down, but also third down, get to the quarterback. Double-digit sacks last year on a brand-new team. Like I said, taking over for Aiden Hutchinson, who got hurt and was out for the season. They needed that kind of production big time. So if it comes down to that, what does Washington really want? Money-wise, it shouldn't be that much difference. I'd probably pay Zidarius Smith more just because he's younger and you can really rely on him a lot more. But still, Washington has options, and they just kind of have to decide what do they want to do with their edge room. If they really, truly like the edge room like they say they do, maybe Von Miller's the way they go. If they say, hey, if somebody goes down, it doesn't look pretty for us, let's go with Zidarius Smith. And I'm sure he would love to, I'm not saying, rotate in and barely play, but rotate in and still get a good amount of snaps, but he's getting quality snaps where it's leading to more production. And it's not just, hey, let's throw him out there for 700 snaps and he's going to be gassed kind of thing. So I'm open to both of them, honestly. If you can help us get to the quarterback, I'm all for it. But I really just want to see what Washington would decide to do. And we'll see if they decide to sign any of those two with their edge rushers or if they stick with what they got. And outside of edge, we have another position, in my opinion, that needs some help, and that's the safety class. There's still a good bit of free agent safeties out there. I kind of thought that, they were looking at Javon Holland. They were looking at some other safeties out there. They did sign Will Harris. But outside of Quan Martin and Will Harris, your depth, and it's no shot at these guys, but Percy Butler and Jeremy Reeves are your backups. And, Washington did run a good bit of 3 safety sets last year. I saw a little bit too much Percy Butler than what I would like. Some liabilities out there, some big-time missed tackles. Once again, nothing on him, but it's just, can you improve that position? Absolutely. And I said Justin Simmons didn't have the flashiest season in his lone season with the Falcons last year, but he still made big-time plays in the secondary with 2 interceptions and 4 pass breakups. Simmons is a 4-time all-pro safety who can help add veteran leadership to the safety room, which is young and lacks depth. So Quan Martin is on the younger side. Will Harris isn't too young, but he's still younger than Justin Simmons. They're projected to be your starting safeties. Outside of that, I like I said, I don't feel comfortable. I do like Tyler Owens, and to be honest with you, I do really like some of these undrafted free agents that they went and got. Obviously Gabe Taylor's getting his rookie tryout. We'll see what happens with him. Robert McDaniel and Trey Rucker out of Oklahoma State. I like those two. I like Robert McDaniel a lot. I think he has a chance to make the team. But if not, and you want that veteran leadership, once again, we've seen Washington go this route. Last year, they kind of had to because of so much roster turnover. They had to get Austin Eckler. They had to get Zach Ertz. They had to get, Bobby Wagner. They kind of had to just help fill out, but have somebody to show the way and say, hey, look, guys, this is what, winning looks like, whether it's Super Bowl winners, guys with playoff experience, whatever it is. And it helped us get to the NFC Championship game, honestly. So you have Quan Martin, you have Will Harris. Adding Justin Simmons, once again, I'm not saying throw him out there as your starting, safety by any means, but I think, once again, he can definitely help out and rotate in. Is he better than Percy Butler and what Jeremy Reeves could be at safety? I think definitely. Yeah, that's what you have to ask yourself. Can you get better? And the answer is yes. I said, they ran a good bit of 3 safety sets, so they need that. And Will Harris, he can even line up in the slot. He can play corner. He can play, he can play in the box. He can do a lot of things. He's not just a safety kind of guy where you just have to throw him at strong safety. Will Harris can do everything. I said they addressed depth at many positions this offseason, but the safety room still lacks it. It's honestly one of my biggest concerns. I'm more concerned about the safety depth than I am with the edge rusher room, to be honest with you. It's that bad. Simmons would be a great fit for Washington, both in terms of his ability to fit into Coach Witt's scheme and as an energy and tone setter on defense. I just love how he plays. I love the energy he brings. And he's also a Virginia native. I think he's from Manassas. And he's expressed his desire to join Washington. I know he did a couple, media stuff. He was talking to Kay Adams. He's talked about the Eagles. He's talked about, going back to the Falcons. He's talked about Washington. You got to think he would love to come back home to Virginia, but then also seize that opportunity in the safety room. We've seen how many players want to come here. Like the culture's different. Everyone sees what we're doing. You went to the NFC Championship game, so you are one of those winning teams now. And the opportunity is there in the safety room for him to where he could come in, make a big difference. So I'm all for Justin Simmons, to be honest with you. I think he's the kind of player that Dan Quinn and Coach Witt looks for on the defense, especially. So another safety. I did 2 pass rushers. I did 2 safeties, and then I did a wild card that not a lot of people might see coming. But the next one I did was Julian Blackman, which it still kind of blows my mind that he's a free agent. He's only 26 years old. I'm not sure why he's still out there. Once again, I said Washington needs more of a safety presence, as I mentioned before, and Blackman offers you the ability to play him at many spots in the secondary. But in my opinion, I think he excels as a single high safety, where he just has that free range to roam, has the speed, the sideline to sideline speed to kind of drop into coverage and stop those big plays. He had some big plays last season. He had his highest coverage and overall grades on PFF last season and is one of the most sought out free agents after the draft right now. It would not surprise me if someone signs him soon. I mean, we've already seen Elijah Moore just got signed like an hour ago. So it would not surprise me at all if he gets picked up soon. And I had a little typo here. He finished the 2024 season with 3 interceptions and 70 tackles and played the 6th most snaps in the NFL at 1,084 snaps. That's a lot. That's a ton. The one thing that does pop out on film is that Julian Blackman could improve his tackling, but he would be a great addition to Washington's defense alongside Quan Martin and Will Harris in the rotation. So I feel like Julian Blackman's different than Justin Simmons in the sense of that, he's not excellent at like one thing, but he's just really good at like everything except tackling in certain situations like open field, stuff like that. But his coverage ability, it's there. His IQ to read and react to plays, it's there. But he's just one of those guys you can kind of play all over the place. He's played in the slot. He's played up in the box. He's played in a lot of different alignments on defense. So for me, it's one, he's 26. He had one of his best seasons last year. No clue why the Colts got rid of him. And I have no idea how he's not picked up yet. Could he be better than what Washington has right now? I wanted him before we even got Will Harris, to be honest with you. He was one of the guys I was looking at. And, as I've said many times, that depth is a major concern to me at that safety spot. If one person gets hurt at the safety spot, if Quan Martin gets hurt again, which, by the way, he apparently tore both his shoulders last season and just had surgery this offseason. If something happens to Quan Martin, your safety room is in a lot of trouble. You're definitely going to be picking up some phone calls and say, hey, Julian, we need you here. Hey, Justin, we need you here ASAP. So at least bring that depth in. I don't know what Blackman would even call for. Maybe that's a reason why teams aren't really going after him right now. Maybe the contract's just a little too much, but still, this has to be on your back burner. And, respect to Lance Newmark, who, even after the draft said, hey, we've been in contact with players that are free agents. He said there's a board in my office I walk past every day, and I look at it and I think about it, which is that's great to hear. I love that. He said, we're checking up on them. Some of them just don't want to sign right now because they have stuff going on, or they're kind of just waiting things out to see how it goes, closer to training camp or like even in the middle of the season. But I think for the most part, 26 years old, I'm sure this guy is just dying to get on a team, but maybe it's just the contract's a little too rich for some teams. But nonetheless, he can be great in coverage out there for you. Like I said, he has highest coverage grade and overall grade on PFF last season. He's worth a shot. If you're not breaking the bank, I think you have to at least call Julian Blackman and say, hey, man, we need some help in this secondary. So, like I said, we got 2 pass rushers that I picked and 2 safeties that I chose. And the last one's going to surprise some people, but I went with running back. I went with J.K. Dobbins. And people are going to be like, what the heck, Josh? We have way too many bodies. We just got Jacory Crosby-Marriott. Why the heck would we get J.K. Dobbins? And I just want you to hear me out. So I said, I know this is a hot take to mention him, but how is J.K. Dobbins still a free agent at 26 years old? And he had a great season last year. He had a really good season last year. If Washington really wanted to revamp the running back room, they would sign J.K. Dobbins to compete at camp, and he would easily be one of the top 3 running backs in the room. And I don't think anyone can argue that. And if you do, you're probably being biased because you really, really like one of these running backs. So Washington did bring back Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols, during the offseason, as well as drafting Jacory Crosby-Marriott in the 7th round. However, Washington could still make improvements to the running back committee and room as a whole. Like I said, it's kind of hard for me to listen to you if you're saying he wouldn't be a top 3 running back in our running back room. The Commanders' running game was non-existent for a majority of the season last year. Unless your name was Jaden Daniels, you were not running the ball well last season. It was a struggle. And I know we improved the offensive line, and I know that's going to help out some of these running backs. But then also Brian Robinson Jr. had so many injuries last year. So many injuries. The vision just hasn't been there for B-Rob. And I hate to say it because he's a Bama boy, and I love him to death. But the vision just hasn't been there. But then also with his style of play at running back, he's the kind of guy that takes contact, eats contact, and just keeps his legs churning, and he, makes big things happen. He's a north to south kind of guy. He's not really going to bust it to the outside and find that D gap and hit the open field. That's not B-Rob. But then he had 2 or 3 different leg injuries last year. So now the juice in his legs just isn't what it used to be. And this is his last season on his contract. And then Austin Eckler, once again, love him to death, but 2 concussions last year. Not really sure what to expect out of him. He's practicing still. Thank God, he's good to go. I mean, he should be on the team next year for sure, in my opinion. But their futures are up in the air with the health concerns that they had this past season. So you might not have both of them after the season coming up. And then you have Jacory Crosby-Marriott, and then you got the young guys once again with Jeremy McNichols and Chris Rodriguez. That's not that good of a running back room. But let's talk about this year. Dobbins is still young and had 195 carries for 905 yards and added 9 touchdowns on the ground last season. He was 11th in the NFL in explosive runs, which is carries of 10 plus yards, with 27. That must have been nice. You know how great our team would have been with J.K. Dobbins on the field last season? It would have been a lot better. Jay would not have been running as much as he did. And he would not have been leading the team in rushing yards while protecting the ball with 0 fumbles. J.K. did. Love it. Another thing, NFC Championship game, fumbling the ball. There's just so many situations last year where bad fumbles would happen. He had 0 fumbles on 195 carries for 905 yards and 9 touchdowns. 0 fumbles. This isn't about names or who has been here the longest. It's about Washington putting forward the best 3 running backs on Sunday. And I finished it up with saying it's really hard to argue that Dobbins wouldn't be a top 3 player in the running back room. So I love all of our guys. I love our players. Love them to death. But give me a running back room that has J.K. Dobbins, Ja'Cory Crosskey-Marriott, and then either B-Rob on, especially like the goal line situations, or if you want more of a receiving threat, Austin Eckler can be that dual threat kind of guy. So pick what you want. And then I'm sorry, but the other one can either get released, get sent to the practice squad, whatever. The other three can go that way. That's fine. It's okay to improve the running back position. It is okay to move on from somebody. Can you give me the best 3 running backs on Sunday? Yes. And there's even been some talks of like Nick Chubb. I could see it. Not really like rumors or anything like that, but people are just saying, hey, Washington could use Nick Chubb. I could see that. Would you take him over B-Rob? I don't know about that because I don't know what his legs look like. But still, if you're going to put the best 3 guys on Sunday, J.K. Dobbins is one of those 3 guys. He would probably be the best one in the entire room, honestly. I love Ja'Cory Crosskey-Marriott. I'm so high on Bill. He goes by Bill. I'm so high on what he's going to do. I love his vision. I love his elusiveness. I love what he brings. I think him and JK is a crazy good duo. And then you have that power puncher with B-Rob. It makes sense to me. Or if you want to go Chris Rodriguez, there's a lot of fans that love Chris Rodriguez. I like him too. I don't really know what his upside is. I don't know what the ceiling could look like for Chris Rodriguez. But if you want that bruiser, that power back, that goal line guy, B-Rob or Chris Rodriguez could be it for you. So in my opinion, Austin Eckler might be the odd guy out, unfortunately. And same with, Jeremy McNichols. Or maybe you give him because he's really good at pass protection and he can help you in the red zone. Who knows? Like I said, Austin Eckler, he can catch. He can do a lot of different things for you. And he can help you in the return game as well. But in my opinion, you got to have a serious conversation about J.K. Dobbins. I don't know why he's a free agent. Maybe teams just wanted to go through the draft because it's a really good running back class. I mean, heck, even like the Browns took 2 running backs. A lot of teams double dipped at running back because there's so many good ones. Like I said, I feel really good about Ja'Cory Crosskey-Marriott. Really hopeful what he's going to do. But J.K. Dobbins will be a top 3 running back in this room. So that's my thoughts on it. You can get an edge rusher with a Von Miller, with the Zidarius Smith, whether it's now, towards the season, preseason, playoffs, whatever. You have that opportunity. But then also that safety room where it's lacking true depth and it's the foundation's a little wobbly, in my opinion. You can add Justin Simmons or Julian Blackman, younger route, the veteran route, the guy that you feel good just throwing out there, or the guy that you can kind of move around and play different pieces wherever you think he plays more comfortable. And then J.K. Dobbins would be, in my opinion, the best running back on this team for next season. And he showed it last year with the Chargers, especially with a revamped offensive line that Washington has. So hopefully y'all got something out of it. That's the 5 free agents I'm really looking at after already addressing the kicker position. That's my focus, and I think Washington would do the same. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.